Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have a lot of people, a few people over here, but it doesn't matter whether there's a lot. I think it's just interesting for me to be able to share a little bit with something that I am quite passionate about, which is towards learning and development, which I think some of us here within the attendees have a certain specialization towards, right? So it's really, once again, my pleasure to be able to speak on this topic. I think previously I spoke on this topic with regards to the Southeast Asian market, especially towards the Vietnamese market. Okay, so I thought it would be good to have a little bit more general idea of the learning culture and the learning solutions that are available, especially towards SMEs. Okay, I think among the attendees, I am seeing that there's quite a few people. Some of them are from India, some of them are from China, some of them are even also out of Asia. So I'm quite happy to get such an international crowd, and hopefully we will be able to go through certain things, that there will be insights for you to take home, and maybe even if you have certain questions, do ask, so that I can actually learn from them. All right. Okay, so it is with that I will start this webinar about building a high impact learning culture for your SME in 2021. Okay, a little bit about why I wanted to cover this topic was because most of the businesses here, especially within Asia Pacific, is still dominated by SMEs. And a lot of SMEs actually hire majority of the population. All right. Even with that, not a lot of SMEs have quite a strong HR talent management understanding. All right, so that is something that we actually want to talk about and to help companies within this area improve in their processes, give them a certain vision to look towards. Okay. Right, so I just want to give a short introduction about myself. I am the sales manager for Asia Pacific for Talonx. We are the implementation partner for Cornerstone On Demand here in Asia Pacific. Some of you might know Cornerstone On Demand, but just as a refresher, Cornerstone On Demand is a global talent management solution. All right, and when we mention talent management solution, we're mentioning more towards the recruitment side of HR, the performance and succession, and also the learning side of HR. So you would see that a lot of our solutions are actually software related, they are SaaS related. So this is just a nice infographic about what Talonx is and where we are. We are currently in 11 countries. Most of our base is actually in Singapore and in Vietnam, because we have a lot of customers around there. We also have an office in Malaysia servicing a lot of them. All right, but we have implemented and sold solutions across 11 countries, and we have close to 75 users, 75,000 users at the moment. These are some of our representative customers. I would like to actually pay even more focus. It seems to us that a lot of our customers are actually from the insurance business. Okay, you can see Manulife, AXA Mandiri, which is from Indonesia, Prudential, and even just recently VIB. Right, I can explain more a little bit so why actually we have quite a lot of customers from the financial enterprises. Okay, but I think if I'm not wrong, one of the attendees is also from the insurance group. So I think that could be interesting for you to explore, that a lot of the solutions that we are catering is actually quite on point with the requirements and needs of the insurance sector. All right, so this is the agenda that I want to go through today. Firstly, I want to talk about the problems that prevent SMEs from onboarding LMS. I want to share a little bit of the differences between an SME and an MNC L&D department. All right, and I want to share with you my experience of how I have seen SMEs within the region actually conduct their LMS, conduct their L&D. Right, the reason why we want to do that is because it gives a clearer picture, rather than follow best practices in MNCs when the situation is very different and they have a lot more resources. I think it's better that we look at companies within the same playing field. right? I want to talk about upskilling later, which really is the glue and the central part of what learning is all about, especially in today's day and age, when job skills keep on changing and it's very difficult to stay relevant. Last but not least, I want to share about what are the offerings that are available in the market and where a little bit of our expertise comes in. All right. So I shall go on with the first topic. All right. We want to talk a little bit about Asia Pacific. This is a graph that was given by Certis Cisco in one of their reports about small medium enterprises here in Asia Pacific and their digital challenges. Okay, as we can see over here that there are 4 groups. We see most of the countries here within the digital observer topic, digital observer group. What that means is that these companies want to observe the digital landscape. All right, they are not moving ahead, they are not the first movers, but they want to take a look and see how is it shaping up. What are the best practices of people who have digitalized their processes first? In digital indifference, you have customers that are, let's say, not affected at all with what is happening in the digital landscape. Okay, we can see here that Singapore is at the top of the curve with regards to SMEs. They are not challenging. None of them are challenging digitally. At the same time, they are still taking a step back and they're still quite cautious. All right. You might be surprised to see Vietnam over here in the digital indifference. However, based on our experience working with companies like VIB, whom you can say they are not exactly SME level, they are very excited to always onboard new technologies. And in fact, you will be surprised that the adoption rates for technologies in Vietnam could be faster than some. All right. So based on our personal experiences, we actually feel Vietnam is way ahead of the curve. But I think it's interesting to note here, you have Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan is also right behind Singapore. Okay. This is also the priorities that were shown by Certis Cisco about which kind of digitalization do you want to occur, right? Because from your knowledge, there are many kind of digitalizations. You can have your CRM, you can have your SAP, you can have your logistics planning, right? Right at the top, we can see that digitalization has been purely focused on market growth, on delivering better customer experience. It's focused on revenue generating operations. Okay, it's all about whether I can get more revenue or whether I can actually reduce my cost so that I can get more profit, right? This is what digitalization has been prioritized in terms of an SME. I think it is still part of an administrative kind of tone to it, right? Where they are looking to replace their administrative pen and paper processes with something that is more efficient, something that is online. Interestingly, we see over here that improving talent sourcing, retention, and employee experience to actually be the last digitization priority, right? When we move over here to improving operations, improving finance viability and predictability, I think that's fair enough. And we see a lot of SMEs digitalize their HR payroll systems, okay? And you can group them around here. But when it comes to talent management, when it comes to recruitment, retention, experience, it is probably one of the last, right? And I think the key point here is that a lot of SMEs still do not know how to link talent management into a revenue driving option. Okay, they only see talent management as incurring cost. When it comes to payroll, people will think, yes, it helps to reduce my cost, helps to reduce my administrative burden. I do not need to hire so many people to handle my payroll. But when it comes to talent management, it possibly does not have that same understanding of reducing costs or driving revenue. All right, so this is where we see the transition of core HR and payroll towards a more talent management centric HR understanding. Most SMEs are still at this stage where they are thinking of digitizing their payroll systems. Okay, and perhaps some companies just stop right there and essentially their HR is just dealing with transactional issues. Right? But I think most of you, some of you might have a different understanding of HR, which is that HR is meant to bring value to the employees. It's meant to unlock the human potential. And that's where talent management is supposed to occur, within recruiting, within learning, within leadership. Okay? And it's specifically with regards to learning that I want to talk about for today. And what I want to talk about is how can we make learning and development become a main revenue driver, right? Because I think a lot of SMEs struggle to understand that. Maybe you have certain senior managers, senior directors who think that learning and development is just, if there is a subsidy, let's go for it. It's something that we should possibly do once a year to refresh people's memory, but it's not being seen as a revenue driver. So how can we help our firms understand this? How can we help our senior management understand this? All right. Secondly, also, can we move from payroll to onboard and LMS? Right. It seems in most of the companies that we talk to, they are actually very willing to move from a payroll straight towards an LMS. And why we say so, it is because of COVID-19. We see a lot of important training activities that were unable to happen in physical locations. All right. So suddenly LMS became a very, very important function to have because you could conduct training online. All right. So we want to talk a little bit about that more so later. Let's go and talk about the differences between an SME and an MNC L&D. It will be good to understand that so we know what kind of practices would suit the SME better. Right? So when it comes to bottom line activities, you would see that most SMEs, a majority of the employees are actually involved in it because you have a lot of people taking each other's roles. You require a lot of well-rounded employees, right? You need employees with multiple skills rather than extremely specialized skills. Obviously for MNC, it's very different. The sales and marketing division is the one doing sales, right? For the SME, it's very important because your sales is the lifeblood of the company. When it comes to the HR team, your SMEs are maybe just 4 people big, 5 people big, and they are maybe managing, across multiple locations. It can be as small as that. When it comes to an MNC, a single global location can have, let's say, a HR team of 60 people. Right? So you have so much human resources, you have a lot of people to do a lot of administrative efforts. But when it comes to the SME, you need to be extremely efficient with your efforts. If you are able to automate certain roles, certain processes, that would be even better and more efficient for the SME in the long run. We come to attraction, and that happens to be the top SME HR problem globally. Right? How do I attract the best employees? Already, my name is not big. Already, I'm losing employees to going to Prudential, going to Manulife. Those are the big companies. Nobody really wants to go to a company that they might not have heard of, right? So attraction will be a problem for SMEs, right? And that is very, very important. When it comes to MNC, it's not the biggest problem. People apply to them. They have loads of candidates. They have a big candidate pipeline. Right? So the question we need to ask is that how do we then attract top talent into the company? What can we promise them when they are in the company? What career pathways, what senior positions can we groom for them? Right? That is what helps retain key talent for SMEs, of which I'll talk later. And that leads me to my next point of retention and succession. In SMEs, your best performing employees, when they leave, they threaten a bottom line capabilities and sometimes even the survivability of the SME. All right. So the point I want to make really is that L&D seems to affect the SME bottom line more than the MNC. All right. Learning and development seems to affect the SME bottom line success more than an MNC. Okay, then the question we need to ask is, How come SMEs do not have such a capability? Is that an issue of cost? Is that an issue of not knowing how to value prop to the senior management? Right? So essentially what we need to be able to express is really how do we build and utilize L&D into a main revenue driver. Okay, and right after this, I would want to show you the process of how my companies, my customers have actually utilized that, despite them actually having a small customer size globally. All right, let me take a little pause here. I'm going to drink a little bit of water. A little bit of our background. While we have handled enterprise customers, we also are focusing on SMEs. Okay, SMEs who maybe have an employee headcount of around 150 people and above. They are looking to upgrade their L&D systems. They're looking to move more towards talent management. That is where we actually had most of our successes in. So I want to share with you 2 case studies. One of them is an IT system integration company with 400 staff, mainly in Asia. Okay, we have another building materials company. They're actually French, but they happen to be in Thailand. Their HQ is in Thailand. They have 600 staff. All right, so for the IT system integration company, let's call it Company A. They had a small HR team of 8. Most of their HR was done on Excel sheets. Okay, and that is something that we realize a lot of SMEs, even those that have up to 1,500 staff, they are still using Excel sheets, right? And it doesn't really surprise us, although really it's something that needs to be worked upon. They want to create a learning culture, and they know that virtual content is the way for their strategy, right? The issue with them is that all of their HR functions, when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to performance, when it comes to learning, it is all siloed. A person goes for a performance review, they have a rating, and it is just left there. They go for training, and they go for training regarding a certain topic that the manager assigned them to, but that has no relation to their performance review, right? So everything is siloed. There is no continuity. The problem they had that they wanted to fulfill was that how do I link the performance gaps to learning, right? And the solution was really to provide for them an integrated talent solution whereby the software is able to identify and to recommend the performance gaps, right, through the performance reviews, be able to recommend training and virtual content related to that performance gap, which is possibly skills-based, right? So let's say the performance gap has a certain skill that he is missing. He is missing presentation skills. How do I link that skills gap into a training solution? Same thing with our company B in Thailand. They had office locations across Asia. They actually wanted soft skills virtual content, and they wanted to link the developmental goals to learning. So how do I ensure a continued employee life cycle from performance to learning, And then once the employee has learned, has attained the skills required for him to do his job, he can in fact look up into other roles, other more senior roles, and he will be able to see what are the skills that are needed for him to learn so that he can actually get into a higher position. You will need an integrated talent solution for that, right? And that's where we see a lot of SMEs really thrive in. Those that are still having Excel sheets, but they are looking to really integrate their entire HR function all the way from performance to learning to succession. The issue is that the employee experience needs to be continued, and you can't do that across an Excel sheet. You need a system to hold your data, to recommend, to link everything together. All right, so essentially that is what an integrated talent program is. We are essentially using upskilling and learning and skills as the core of it all. right? We link the performance to skills. If the person is not performing well, we identify where the gap is and what skills he needs to learn. That leads us to skills development through training. Like what we mentioned, nowadays a lot of physical lessons cannot happen. So you need virtual content, you need a strong curated library where you can link the skills gap to your training videos. And once the employee has learned whatever that is needed, his performance is excellent, he wants to look up for a succession position, right? And he wants to find out what are the skills needed in this position. He is able to then go back to training to develop himself. And that leads him to have better skills for a more senior and more complicated role. All in all, learning and upskilling is the glue that will create a continued and integrated talent program. All right, this is something that I really believe in. Conceptually, it sounds good, but it is very important that you have one single platform to glue all of these HR functions together. We talk about upskilling now, all right? Do companies know how to upskill, right? This is just a newspaper article that I found recently with regards to Singaporean companies, okay? It says here that Singaporean companies are lagging in upskilling offerings. Okay, and white-collar staff say they lack the expertise to do the job well. Okay, that's a very interesting headline. And in this particular report, it gave a few statistics. 2 out of 3 employees feel daunted by the pace of change in their industries. I think some of you within your own HR professions have been realizing that the skills needed for each job has been transforming massively. Okay, just to give an example, I have a brother who is 3 years older than me. He's currently working in an investment company. Okay, and he is doing a lot of back-end financial modeling, running a lot of reports for their financial clients. Recently, he has been thinking of changing job. All right, he has been in the company for 5 years. He has been applying to a lot of banks with regards to the same position. However, the job description is very different nowadays. The job description would add another requirement, and one of the requirements for this position as a financial modeling person who runs reports is to learn Python, is to have coding background. Okay, and that's what we see is happening actually within the job market nowadays. A lot of jobs are including different skills that people do not have. Right? And hence, a lot of people feel daunted by the pace of change. 17% are satisfied, only 17% are satisfied with their company's L&D offerings, meaning that maybe the company does not have any L&D offerings, maybe the company's L&D offerings are just not attractive enough. 2 out of 5 have left the firm that didn't have an adequate L&D offering. Right, so I think these statistics are very indicative of how employees nowadays are looking for upskilling opportunities. They are looking for content, they're looking for physical training workshops that would really be relevant to them, especially in a day and age when everything is changing a lot. Right, and when you have a lack of upskilling opportunities, you lead to higher employee turnover, as shown from this statistic over here. Not only that, if you do not have the skills that you're looking for in an employee, you result to recruitment, you result to new hires, you result to, let's say, recruitment agencies, and there is a lot of cost engaged with that, right? Rather than internally developing your own employees. Okay, so this is where L&D actually starts to affect your succession, starts to affect your employee retention, right? And imagine if 2 out of 5 have left a firm, some of these are your high-performing employees. You know, you would have lost them due to an inadequate L&D offering, due to an inadequate integrated talent management program. And we see that happen in a lot of our customers, which is why they want to onboard something that would really help to reskill and upskill their employees. Okay, so this is where I just want to share really the last part. What are the offerings that are available in the market? When it comes to the main technologies, what you have is the LMS. I think a lot of people are familiar with this. This is the transactional and administrative portion of the LMS. We have the content libraries. A lot of people are familiar and using LinkedIn Learning, in fact. And you have the LXP, which is your YouTube platforms. Okay, most of the time, most customers need all of these three. Content libraries became very, very important during COVID because they are all looking at virtual content. But what you would want is a vendor who is able to handle all of these three. Okay. Another new tool I wanted to share is content creation. I think some of you might know that developing content is expensive. Some of my customers here in Singapore said that to create content in Singapore for one compliance video can cost up to $16,000. Okay, which is why nowadays we have a content creation tool in which it allows users, administrators to create their own content in a very, very simple manner. I have tried it before and it's actually very simple. I didn't even need to learn it. You can just go straight away and use it, right? Especially if the content that you want to create is very simple. Just a few questions, a few short videos, linking it to YouTube. It's all very doable with this new tool in the market. This is where Cornerstone can help. Towards the learning side, we have a lot of customers that are looking for the learning management system, the LXP, and also the content. What I see most of our SME customers using is actually getting the learning and the performance and careers and linking together performance and learning to create a better succession framework, to create a more continued flow of employee experience, all right, that will lead to a lower employee turnover. So that's where we see a lot of our customers actually purchasing. Specifically with the learning option, that is how it is broken down, right? This is the LMS platform that Cornerstone has. More importantly, is really the content anytime offering that Cornerstone has at this moment, right? What Cornerstone does is that they aggregate content from 40 content providers globally, all right? And the customer would have access to 40,000 courses. This is very different from the traditional subscriptions that you have. Let's say you want to subscribe to LinkedIn Learning. Normally, the cost per user per year is extremely pricey, right? But with Cornerstone Content Anytime, the cost can easily be 4 to 5 times cheaper than what you see on the market actually. All right, and of course you have performance, you have a capabilities library that really be able to identify what are the skills needed to do each job, what are your skills gap, and linking it to learning, and the learning linking to the content. Okay, like what we mentioned previously about having an integrated talent management solution. All right, so in conclusion, what I want to share with you really at the end of today is that SMEs can move from HRIS to LMS systems. And the goal really is to have employee upskilling opportunities. And through that, you are able to make it a main revenue driver through retaining your high-performing employees and also to reduce costs within recruitment. Number two, SMEs can be intentional and efficient with their L&D programs. You have to link them with performance, then you get a very continued life cycle. The moment you have a very siloed HR function, the HR function is being operated for nothing. There is no follow-up after a performance review is done. There is no follow-up after a learning or a training is done. SMEs need to be more intentional because they don't have a lot of funds like MNCs, which they're able to really spend, they're able to splurge. Okay, so in a certain way, while SMEs could be more concerned about the cost related to software, I think the software and platforms are able to allow them to be more intentional and efficient. So I think it works both ways. Okay, last but not least, since I am based in Singapore and we know a lot of the grants that the Singapore government gives, SMEs can actually utilize on this grant called EDG to subsidize up to 80% the cost of an LMS or even the cost of a performance suit, right? So I think it's interesting to explore. Maybe if you're in Vietnam, you also have a grant that is made available by the government. Maybe you are in Europe, maybe there could be a similar grant too. So utilize whatever that you have. And I think the cost wise, you should be able to not be focused too much on it, but really to understand the revenue driving capabilities that learning and development can really offer. Okay, right now I want to open this time to Q&A session. If anyone has questions at the moment, I'll be happy to take them and answer them. Anyone has any questions? There is a questions tab within the Livestorm platform, which I think you can utilize, that you can ask a new question through that. Okay, it's at the right-hand side of the platform, and I think it's the second tab on that. I wanted to share a little bit actually about our experience within the financial industry. Okay, so why we have had quite a lot of references within the financial industry was because a lot of them are looking for compliance videos, compliance virtual content, and they wanted a huge variety of it. What happened is that a lot of our financial customers were having multiple contracts with LinkedIn Learning, with Coursera, with Udemy, and the cost would actually be quite expensive, right? But with Cornerstone Content Anytime, they were actually able to aggregate the content from all of the 40 content providers globally. And it had a very robust and extensive compliance content bundle and content database. Right, with that, they were able to actually create a lot of playlists with regards to compliance. And I think especially within the financial industry, that is very important. Yeah. So, I mean, I was just wondering because I think I looked through some of the profiles of the attendees. Some of them are from the financial industries or either from insurance. Okay. And I think this could be something interesting for you to explore. Is there any other questions? I think I'll leave it for maybe 3 more minutes for anyone to ask any question. Thanks, Lena, for that question. Yes, for further details for Cornerstone, what we can do is that we can liaise with you right after this. With regards to demo, I mean, that is doable for sure. We can also give you a cost comparison of what is it like to onboard certain systems as compared to other of the enterprise systems over there. Yeah. For Lena, actually, I just wanted to ask, what is the main focus? Is it towards learning solutions or is it towards performance, or do you have something else in mind? Never mind, Lena. I think we can possibly connect after this. It doesn't need to be through the chat in Livestorm. But thank you so much for your question. Any more questions do we have? All right. If not, I shall end today's session. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to be able to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you're interested to have a chat about what we think about the industry, we can even direct you to other products or other solutions that will be more catered to you. Because Cornerstone might not be the one that fits your requirements. That's very understandable. But we will definitely be happy to just hear from you, and we can give you a free consultative advice based on our experience within the industry. All right, so let's connect over there. I want to wish everyone a happy weekend ahead. And for me, because I'm in Singapore, a very happy Chinese New Year to those who will be celebrating it, especially for those in Vietnam, yes, and those in China. All right, thank you so much for your time. Everyone have a good weekend ahead. Thank you so much. I'll connect with you, Lena, separately from there. Thank you.